Okay, we're dealing with an absolute value problem in 6.4. We've got number 19 says absolute value of x equals 7. And if you remember, the absolute value of something just means if this number had been a negative number, you just turn it positive. So in other words, we could put a 7 inside there and it would end up being true because 7 equals 7. But it just so happens we can also put a negative 7 inside there. And that would, the absolute value would cancel the negativity of that. So, in other words, these two are possibilities, possible answers. And the way your book shows you, in this simple example, you know, we could just power through it with our thinking. We don't actually have to do a bunch of scratch work to figure out that this could be a 7 or a negative 7. But later, in some more complicated problems, you're really going to need to have a good strategy for solving this stuff, because you won't be able to power through it with your brain. So, the way the book shows is to write it once where this side's positive, and then write it again where that side is negative. And at this point, there's no more steps to really go through. We've got our answer. That's exactly what we just discussed, is that x could be a positive 7 or a negative 7. So you'll really only understand the value of setting it up this way when you do a more complicated problem. So let's go ahead and I'll just go ahead and keep it in the same video, a more complicated problem like number 23. 23 says x plus 5, absolute value equals 11. So according to the strategy that I just shared with you, you need to write it once where this is positive, and I recommend just put a squiggly line to separate them, and then write it again where that's negative, and then solve it. So we go minus 5, that's gone, x equals, what's that, 7, and then we do minus 5, that's gone, and we get 16, negative 16. So there's our two possibilities, just like I showed in the very simple problem. The absolute value creates the situation where there's two possible answers, because we don't know if this is going to be a negative number or a positive number. If it's a positive number, then it could be the 7, and if you put that back in, 7 plus 5, yes, that is 11. But you could also have a negative possibility. Negative 16 could be in there, and negative 16 plus 5 is negative 11, and the absolute value would convert it to a positive, so that would also be true. And this is how you can set it up. If you use this strategy, you'll be able to solve it. As far as the logic behind putting the negative over here, the positive over here, and then doing it again where it's negative, I think I would confuse myself trying to, at this point anyways, I'm trying to come up with a better explanation rather than just do it this way at this point, but so far I haven't been able to come up with a decent one that doesn't confuse a middle schooler. So at this point, just think about the fact that you've got two possibilities, and it's easier to negate that side where it's just a single term than to try to deal with what if the x were negative and that number with it or something. So set them up this way, and the solutions will come pretty easy. And if you have any question about your solution, plug it back in and see if it's still true.